The Velith Dominion had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. Their ships were the fastest. Their weapons were the strongest. Their empire covered 400 star systems, and every species they found either served them or died. This was the way of things. This was the only way. Censor Warden Krill sat at his station on the bridge of the flagship Throne of Silence. His job was simple. He watched the darkness of space and looked for anything that did not belong. For 20 years, he had done this job. He had found smugglers, pirates, and lost ships. He had never found anything he could not explain, until tonight. A small light appeared on his screen. It was there for less than a heartbeat. Then it was gone. Krill leaned forward and looked at the data. The object had appeared 3 million kilometers away. It had no identification signal. It sent no messages. His sensors could not tell him what it was made of or where it came from. He checked his equipment. Everything was working perfectly. He decided it was nothing. Space was full of strange radiation and floating rocks. Sometimes, sensors saw things that were not really there. He went back to his normal work. 2 hours later, the light appeared again. This time, it was closer. 2 million kilometers. Again. It vanished before he could get a proper reading. Krill felt something cold move through his body. This was not radiation. This was not a rock. Something was out there. Something was watching them. He called his assistant over. "Look at this," he said. He showed her the 2 readings. "What do you see?" She studied the data for a long moment. Her face became pale. "It is moving toward us," she said quietly. "And it is fast. Warden, this object is moving 3 times faster than our fastest ship." "That is impossible," Krill said. But he knew she was right. The numbers did not lie. He had no choice. He had to report this to High Commander Orthus. The High Commander was a tall creature, with dark scales and eyes like black stones. He had destroyed entire civilizations. He had never known fear. 343. I Blackduthers. When Krill showed him the sensor readings, Orthus simply stared at the screen for a long time. "You are telling me," Orthus said slowly, "that something is out there. Something faster than us. Something we cannot identify. Something that leaves no trail." "Yes, High Commander. And it is coming closer." "Yes, High Commander." Orthus turned to his communications officer. "Send a message on all frequencies, all languages. Tell this unknown vessel to identify itself immediately. Tell it that failure to respond will be considered an act of war." The message went out into the darkness. Every ship in the patrol fleet waited. 12 warships, armed with enough weapons to burn a planet. All pointed at empty space. There was no response. Minutes passed. Then, hours. Krill watched his sensors until his eyes hurt. The object did not appear again. Some of the officers began to relax. Perhaps it was gone. Perhaps it had been nothing after all. Then Krill saw something that stopped his heart. The object appeared directly behind their formation. It was close. So close that if it were a normal ship, they would see it through the windows. But there was nothing there. Only darkness. Only stars. And then it was gone again. "High Commander," Krill whispered. "It was right behind us. It was close enough to touch our ships." The bridge became very quiet. Every officer understood what this meant. Something had come within weapons range of 12 Dominion warships. It had done this without being detected until it wanted to be detected, and it had left without a scratch. High Commander Orthus gripped the arms of his command chair. In 10,000 years, no one had ever done this to the Dominion. No one had ever made them feel like prey. "Find it," he ordered. "I do not care how. Find it and destroy it." But deep inside, in a place he would never show to his crew, Orthus felt something he had not felt in centuries. He felt small. He felt watched. He felt afraid. Far away, hidden in the darkness between stars, a small ship drifted silently. It was called the Wanderer, and it was older than it looked. Its hull was covered with special material that absorbed sensor waves. Its engine was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. On the bridge of this small ship, Captain Park Tae sat in his chair and watched the Dominion fleet on his display screen. He was a man of 45 years, with gray at his temples and calm eyes that had seen many difficult things. Beside him stood Lieutenant Yoon Hana, his pilot. She was younger, faster, with hands that could fly a ship through an asteroid field without touching a single rock. They sent their message, Yoon Hana said. They want us to identify ourselves. I heard, Captain Park Tae replied. Should we respond? The captain smiled. It was a small smile, thin and careful. No, not yet. Let them wonder. Let them worry. Let them lose sleep. He stood up and looked at the stars through the main window. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere out there were 8 billion humans who had no idea that an empire of monsters was waiting to find them. His job was to make sure that when that meeting happened, humanity would not be seen as weak. They have noticed us, he said quietly. Good. Now, let us see how they react to something they cannot control, something they cannot catch, something they cannot understand. The Wanderer turned slowly and began to move away, slipping between dimensions, becoming invisible once more. Behind them, the Dominion fleet searched the darkness and found nothing. The ghost had come. The ghost had watched. And the ghost had decided that the mighty Velith Dominion was not as mighty as it believed. This was only the beginning. The throne room of Empress Vithara was built from the bones of dead worlds. The walls were made of black stone taken from planets the Dominion had conquered. The floor was polished metal from ships they had destroyed. Everything in this room was meant to remind visitors of one simple truth. The Velith Dominion always won. Empress Vethara sat on her throne and listened to High Commander Orthus give his report. She was ancient by any measure. Having ruled for over 300 years, her scales were silver with age, and her eyes glowed with a cold inner light. She had seen empires rise and fall. She had ordered the death of billions. Nothing surprised her anymore. Until now. You are telling me, she said, her voice like ice, that a single unknown object made your entire fleet look like fools. Orthus kept his head low. Yes, Empress. The object moves faster than anything in our records. It appears and disappears without warning. We cannot track it. We cannot catch it. We cannot even properly scan it. Where did it come from? We believe it came from the Barren Reach, Empress. The dead zone beyond our border. The Empress was quiet for a moment. The Barren Reach was a region of space that the Dominion had ignored for thousands of years. The stars there were old and dying. The planets were cold and empty. Nothing lived there. Nothing could live there. Or so they had always believed. Find out what it is, she commanded. Search every database. Question every scientist. I want answers. The search began immediately. Thousands of scholars and experts worked day and night. They looked through records going back 10,000 years. They studied every species the Dominion had ever met. They found nothing. No civilization in known space had technology like this. No one could move that fast. No one could hide that well. The ghost had come from nowhere. And that was the most frightening thing of all. Far from the throne world, the Wanderer drifted in the shadow of a dead star. Inside, the crew went about their work with quiet focus. Dr. Kang Su was the oldest member of the crew. He was 58 years old, with white hair and hands that shook slightly when he was excited. He was also the smartest human being most people had ever met. He had spent 30 years building the engine that made this mission possible. He called it the phase slip drive. It worked by pushing the ship into a thin space between dimensions. In this space, the normal rules did not apply. Light moved differently. Time moved differently. A ship could travel vast distances in seconds and remain completely invisible to normal sensors. "The drive is working perfectly," he reported to Captain Park Tae. "We can maintain phase slip for another 6 months without major repairs." The captain nodded. "Good. We will need every day of that time." Lieutenant Yoon Hana looked up from her navigation console. "Captain, I have been thinking. One ship appearing and disappearing is strange. But what if we could make them think there are many ships?" Dr. Kang-soo's eyes lit up. "You mean sensor echoes?" Yes. Yes. I could do that. I could modify our phase slip signature to leave traces in multiple locations. We would appear to be in 3 places at once. "Do it," Captain Park Tae said. "Let them think we are a fleet." In the corner of the bridge, Specialist No Eun sat at her communication station. She was a quiet woman who rarely spoke more than necessary, but she heard everything. Her job was to listen to Dominion signals, break their codes, and learn their secrets. "Captain," she said softly, "I have been monitoring their communications. They are afraid. Their military leaders are arguing with each other. Some want to attack. Some want to hide. None of them know what to do." Captain Park Tae walked over to her station and looked at the translations on her screen. Messages flew between Dominion worlds, each one more panicked than the last. Words like impossible and unknown threat and what do we do appeared again and again. "Good," he said. "Fear is our greatest weapon. We are one small ship with 5 people. They have thousands of warships and billions of soldiers. If they knew the truth, they would crush us like insects. But they do not know. And their imagination is creating an enemy far more powerful than we actually are." He turned to address the whole crew. 2 years ago, our probes discovered the Velith Dominion. We learned what they do to species they consider weak. They conquer. They enslave. They destroy. Earth decided that we would not wait for them to find us. We would find them first, and we would make them afraid. Sergeant Baek Jin, the head of security, spoke up. He was a serious man with a soldier's posture and a soldier's eyes. "And when they finally learn the truth? When they discover we are just 5 humans in a single ship? By then," Captain Park Tae replied, "they will have seen that humans are not easy prey. They will know that we have technology they do not understand. They will think twice before attacking us. And that hesitation might save our entire species." 3 days later, the Wanderer put its plan into action. Lieutenant Yoon Hana piloted the ship through 3 different star systems in a single hour. In each system, Dr. Kang-soo activated the sensor echo. To Dominion sensors, it looked like 3 separate ships appearing at the same moment in 3 different places. On the Dominion throne world, Sensor Warden Krill stared at his screen with hollow eyes. He had not slept in days. Reports were coming in from across the Empire. The ghost was everywhere. It had been seen near military bases, science stations, and even the royal shipyard where new warships were built. 3 contacts, his assistant reported, all appearing at the same moment in different systems, all moving at impossible speeds, all vanishing before we can respond. Krill put his head in his hands. For 20 years, his job had been simple. Watch the darkness. Find anything strange. Report it. Now the darkness was watching back, and he had no idea what to do. He whispered to himself, to the empty space, to whatever was out there listening. "What are you? What do you want?" There was no answer. There was only silence, and the cold light of distant stars. And somewhere in that silence, the Wanderer moved unseen, carrying its crew of 5 humans who had dared to challenge an empire. The game was just beginning. The Velith Dominion was built on one simple idea: strength. The strong ruled, the weak served. For 10,000 years, this had been the law of the galaxy. Every species the Dominion met learned this lesson. Some learned it through surrender. Others learned it through death. But now, for the first time in 10,000 years, The Dominion felt weak. The ghost ships had been seen in 12 different systems in the past month. They appeared near military bases. They appeared near fuel stations. They appeared near the personal estates of powerful nobles. Every time the Dominion sent ships to catch them, they found nothing but empty space. Panic was spreading. On border worlds, citizens demanded protection. Merchants refused to travel without armed escorts. Soldiers whispered to each other in dark corners, sharing rumors about invisible enemies that could not be stopped. In the Imperial Senate, the leaders of the Dominion argued about what to do. "We must attack," shouted Admiral Vorn, commander of the Eastern Fleet. "We must send every ship we have into the barren reach and burn whatever we find there." "Attack what?" replied Senator Thessa, an old female with tired eyes. "We do not even know what we are fighting. We do not know where they come from. We do not know how many they are. You cannot fight shadows with warships. Then what do you suggest? That we hide? That we wait for them to attack us? I suggest," Senator Thessa said slowly, "that we consider a possibility we have never considered before. What if these beings do not want to fight? What if they are testing us? Studying us?" The Senate fell silent. This was a strange idea. The Dominion did not study other species. They conquered them. The thought that someone might be studying the Dominion the same way the Dominion studied insects was deeply uncomfortable. Empress Vethera listened to the arguments from her throne. Finally, she raised one hand, and the room became quiet. "Enough," she said. "We will not hide. We will not wait. High Commander Orthus, you will gather the largest fleet in our history. 200 warships. You will hunt these ghosts, and you will destroy them. I do not care how long it takes. I do not care how many ships you lose. You will find them, and you will end this." Orthus bowed low. "It will be done, Empress." The fleet took 3 weeks to assemble. 200 warships, each one capable of destroying a city in minutes. 50,000 soldiers. The finest weapons the Dominion had ever built. It was the most powerful force ever gathered in one place. High Commander Orthus stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Fist of Empire. He watched his fleet spread out across space like a net, ready to catch anything that moved. "Begin the search," he ordered. "Check every rock. Scan every shadow. Nothing escapes." The hunt began. Far away, hidden near a gas giant with rings of ice and stone, the Wanderer watched the Dominion fleet through long-range sensors. Dr. Kang-Su let out a low whistle. 200 ships. They are serious this time. Sergeant Baek-jin stood at the weapons console, though the Wanderer carried very few weapons. His job was to defend the ship if everything else failed. Looking at the massive fleet on the screen, he felt very small. "Captain," he said carefully, "if they find us, we cannot fight that many ships. We cannot even fight one of their warships. Our only defense is staying hidden." "I know," Captain Park Tae replied. He did not seem worried. He seemed calm, like a man playing a game he knew he would win. "Then why are you smiling?" "Because they made a mistake. They gathered all their best ships in one place. They are looking outward, searching the darkness for us. They are not looking at what is right in front of them." Lieutenant Yoon Hana understood immediately. "You want us to fly through the middle of their fleet?" "Yes." Sergeant Baek-jin stared at the captain. "That is insane." "No. It is psychology. Right now, they think we are hiding somewhere far away. They think we are afraid of them. If we fly through the center of their fleet, right past their flagship, we prove that we can go anywhere we want. We prove that their greatest weapons mean nothing to us. The fear will spread through their entire civilization." He turned to Dr. Kang-Su. "Can we do it safely?" The old engineer thought for a moment. "If we stay in phase slip, they cannot touch us. But for psychological impact, we should become visible for a short time. 2 seconds should be enough for them to see us on their sensors. 2 seconds, Captain Park Tae agreed. Then we vanish. Lieutenant Yoon, plot a course directly through the center of their formation. Pass within 1 kilometer of the flagship. Yoon Hana's fingers moved across her console. Her heart was beating fast, but her hands were steady. This was why she had joined this mission. This was the moment that would change everything. Course plotted, she said. Ready on your command. Captain Park Tae looked at his small crew. 5 humans against an empire. 1 tiny ship against 200 warships. By every logical measure, they should not be here. They should not be alive. But humans had never been logical. They had always reached for things that seemed impossible. They had always refused to accept their limits. Go, he said. The Wanderer slipped between dimensions and flew. On the bridge of the Fist of Empire, alarms suddenly screamed. Every sensor showed the same thing. An unknown object, moving at impossible speed, heading directly toward them. Fire! High Commander Orthus shouted. All ships, fire everything! 200 warships opened fire at once. The space around them filled with beams of energy and missiles and bullets. Enough firepower to destroy a moon. Enough destruction to burn a world. They hit nothing. The ghost passed through their formation like smoke through fingers. For 2 seconds, it was visible on every screen. Small. Fast. Untouchable. It passed within a kilometer of Orthus's flagship, close enough that he could almost feel it. Then, it was gone. The firing stopped. Silence filled the bridge. High Commander Orthus looked at the empty space where the ghost had been. His hands were shaking. His hearts were pounding. 200 ships, 50,000 soldiers. The mightiest fleet in the history of the Dominion, and they had hit nothing. He sat down heavily in his command chair. For the first time in his long life, he understood something terrible. The Dominion was not hunting the ghost. The ghost was hunting them. And it was playing with its food. On the Wanderer, the crew was quiet. They had just done something that would be remembered forever. They had flown through the heart of enemy power and emerged without a scratch. Lieutenant Yoon Hana let out a long breath. Her hands were finally shaking, now that it was over. Captain Park Tae looked at the stars on his screen. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere out there were billions of humans who would never know what had happened today. Well done, he said quietly. Now they know the truth. No matter how many ships they build, no matter how many weapons they carry, they cannot catch us. They cannot stop us. They cannot even touch us. He paused, then added, It is almost time to show them who we are. The Wanderer turned and flew into the darkness, leaving the broken pride of an empire behind. Empress Vethera had not slept in 6 days. She sat alone in her private chamber, surrounded by screens showing reports from across her empire. Every report was bad. The ghost had humiliated her fleet. The news had spread to every corner of the Dominion. Citizens were asking questions that had never been asked before. How could the Empress protect them? How could she call herself the ruler of the galaxy if she could not catch a single ship? Her advisors came to her with plans. Build more ships. Develop new weapons. Search harder. She rejected all of them. None of it would matter. The ghost had proven that it could go anywhere, do anything, and escape untouched. More ships would only mean more ships failing to catch it. For the first time in 300 years, Empress Vethara did not know what to do. Then the impossible happened again. The ghost appeared above Valethos, not at the edge of the system, not hiding behind a moon. It appeared in high orbit above the throne world itself, directly above the Imperial Palace. The most heavily defended location in the entire Dominion. Alarms screamed across the planet. Defense stations powered up their weapons. Thousands of guns pointed at the small ship, hanging in the darkness above them. Generals shouted orders. Soldiers ran to their positions. But the ghost did not run. It did not vanish. It simply waited. On the Wanderer, The bridge was very quiet. Everyone knew what was about to happen. They had planned for this moment for months. But planning and doing were very different things. "They have locked weapons on us," Lieutenant Yoon Hana reported. Her voice was steady, but Captain Park Tae could see the tension in her shoulders. "Thousands of weapons. If we drop out of phase slip, they will destroy us in seconds. We will not drop out of phase slip," the captain replied. "We will stay protected. But we will let them see us. We will let them scan us. And we will send them a message." He turned to Specialist No Un. "Are you ready?" The quiet woman nodded. Her fingers hovered over her console. She had spent weeks preparing this message. First, she would send mathematics, prime numbers, universal constants, the language that any intelligent species would understand. This would prove they were not random noise or a natural phenomenon. Then she would send words. "Do it," Captain Park Tae said. No Un pressed a button, and the message began to transmit. In the Imperial Palace, Empress Vithara watched her screens with wide eyes. The ghost was sending a signal. After all this time, after all this silence, it was finally speaking. The first part of the message was numbers. Her scientists recognized them immediately. Prime numbers, mathematical constants. "It is intelligent," one of them whispered. "It is trying to communicate." Then came words. They appeared on every screen on the planet, translated perfectly into Dominion script. Someone had learned their language. Someone had been listening. The message said, "We are not your enemy. We are not your prey. We are humanity, and we choose when we are seen." Empress Vethra read the words 3 times. Humanity. She had never heard this name before. Her vast databases contained no record of any species called humanity. They had truly come from nowhere. "Scan it," she ordered. "Full scan. I want to know everything about that ship." For the first time, the ghost allowed itself to be fully scanned. The results appeared on her screen, and Empress Vithara felt her blood turn cold. The ship was small. Tiny, really. It was barely larger than a personal shuttle. It carried almost no weapons. Its armor was thin. By every measure, it should be nothing. A toy. Something a Dominion warship could destroy without slowing down. But it had brought the greatest empire in the galaxy to its knees. "They are letting us see them," one of her advisors said. "They want us to know they are not a fleet. They are not an armada. They are one small ship that we cannot catch." Another advisor added, "One small ship that can go anywhere in our empire, whenever it wants." The ghost remained visible for 30 seconds. 30 seconds of thousands of weapons pointed at it. 30 seconds of the entire planet holding its breath. Then, slowly, it began to fade. "Wait," Empress Vethra said. She did not know why she said it. She did not expect the ghost to hear her, but it stopped fading. It waited. She leaned forward. "What do you want?" she asked. "Why have you come here? Why have you shown yourself to us?" The answer came on her screen, appearing letter by letter. "We came to introduce ourselves. One day, your empire and our people will meet properly. When that day comes, we want you to remember this moment. We want you to remember that we could have been enemies. We could have destroyed your ships and killed your soldiers. But we chose not to. We chose to speak. We hope you will make the same choice." Wud. Empress Vethra stared at the words for a long moment. In 10,000 years, no one had ever spoken to the Dominion like this. No one had ever had the power to speak to the Dominion like this. She wanted to be angry. She wanted to order every weapon to fire until the ghost was destroyed. But she was too old and too wise for simple anger. She recognized something in this message, something she had not seen in a very long time. Respect. These creatures, these humans, were not attacking. They were not making demands. They were simply proving that they could not be bullied. They were proving that they were worthy of being treated as equals. "Open a channel," she said quietly. "I want to speak to them directly." Her advisors looked shocked. "Empress, we cannot negotiate with—" "I am not negotiating," she interrupted. "I am acknowledging. There is a difference." The channel opened. Empress Vithara looked at the empty space where she knew the ghost was waiting. "I hear your message," she said. "I understand your meaning. When our peoples meet properly, I will remember this day." There was a pause. Then a final message appeared. "Thank you. We will be in contact." The ghost faded away, slipping between dimensions, vanishing into the darkness between stars. Empress Vithara sat back in her throne. Around her, advisors were talking rapidly, trying to understand what had just happened. She ignored them all. She turned to her oldest advisor, a creature who had served her for over 100 years. "What are humans?" she asked him. He had no answer. But for the first time in days, Empress Vithara smiled. It was a small smile, thin and thoughtful. She had ruled the Dominion for 300 years by understanding power, and today she had learned something new about power. True power was not just the ability to destroy. True power was the ability to choose not to destroy. These humans, whoever they were, understood that lesson. Perhaps, she thought, they would be worthy opponents. Or perhaps they would be something even rarer. Perhaps they would be worthy allies. Only time would tell. On the Wanderer, Captain Park Tay watched the throne world shrink on his screen as they flew away. His crew was silent, still processing what they had done. "Sir," Lieutenant Yunhana said finally, "did that actually work? Did we just talk to the ruler of an empire?" "We did," Captain Park Tay replied. "And she listened?" "She did." Sergeant Baek Jin shook his head slowly. "I never thought I would see this day. 1 ship, 5 people. And we made an empire stop and listen." Dr. Kang Su smiled his wild smile. "That is humanity for you. We do not wait for permission. We do not ask to be heard. We simply appear and refuse to be ignored." Specialist No-Un looked up from her console. "Captain, I am receiving a message from Earth. High Command wants a full report." Captain Park Tay nodded. "Tell them Phase 1 is complete. The Dominion knows we exist. They know we cannot be caught. And most importantly, they know we want to talk." He looked at the stars, thinking about the billions of humans back home who would never know how close they had come to being discovered by predators. Because of this mission, because of this small ship and its brave crew, humanity would not meet the galaxy as victims. They would meet it as equals. "Set course for the rendezvous point," he ordered. "It is time to prepare for the next step." The Wanderer turned and flew toward home, carrying with it the hope of an entire species. 3 months passed. In that time, the galaxy changed. The news of the ghost ship spread to every corner of Dominion space. Scholars wrote papers about it. Children told stories about it. The name, humanity, was whispered in markets and military bases, in royal courts and remote colonies. No one knew what humans looked like. No one knew where they came from. But everyone knew one thing. They could not be caught, and they could not be ignored. Empress Vethera sent a message into the darkness. She proposed a meeting. Neutral space, no weapons, no tricks, just talk. To her surprise, the humans agreed. The meeting point was chosen carefully. It was a dead system at the edge of the barren reach, far from any Dominion world. A single star, old and red, surrounded by empty rocks. Nothing lived here. Nothing had ever lived here. The Dominion sent a diplomatic ship, unarmed and unarmored, as promised. High Commander Orthus was aboard. Along with the greatest scientists and scholars in the Empire, they had orders to learn everything they could about humanity. They arrived first and waited, Then, exactly at the agreed time, 3 ships appeared out of nowhere. The Wanderer was in the center, flanked by 2 smaller escort vessels. So the humans had more than 1 ship after all. But still, only 3. The Dominion had expected a fleet. Captain Park Tae looked at the Dominion ship on his screen. It was large and elegant, covered in symbols and decorations that marked it as a vessel of great importance. Beside him, his crew prepared for the most important moment of their mission. "Are we really doing this?" Lieutenant Yunhana asked. "Walking onto their ship? Just the 3 of us?" "We are," Captain Park Tae replied. "Dr. Kang and I will handle the talking. You will watch and listen. Sergeant Baek, you will remain here with the ship. If anything goes wrong, leave immediately." Sergeant Baek Jin nodded. He did not like staying behind. But he understood. Someone had to be ready to warn Earth if this was a trap. The captain, the pilot, and the engineer boarded a small shuttle and flew toward the Dominion ship. As they approached, the great vessel opened its doors to welcome them. Inside, they found a grand hall built for impressing visitors. The walls were covered with gold and silver. Lights hung from the ceiling like captured stars. At the far end of the hall stood the Dominion delegation, tall creatures with dark scales and cold eyes. High Commander Orthus stepped forward to greet them. He had expected the humans to be large and powerful, beings of metal or energy, something worthy of the fear they had inspired. Instead, he saw 3 small creatures with soft skin and fragile bodies. They had no claws, no armor, no natural weapons of any kind. By every physical measure, they looked like prey. "You are the humans," he said. "We are," Captain Park Tae replied. His voice was calm and steady. He showed no fear, even standing before creatures twice his size. "You are smaller than I expected. Size is not everything." Orthus looked at the human for a long moment. Then, despite himself, he laughed. It was a harsh sound, but there was genuine amusement in it. "No," he agreed. "I suppose it is not. Please, sit. We have much to discuss." They sat at a great table. On one side, the humans. On the other, the Dominion. For a moment, no one spoke. 2 civilizations, meeting for the first time, trying to understand each other. A Dominion scientist spoke first. "We have studied your ship. Your drive system uses principles we do not understand. Your ability to move between dimensions should not be possible according to our physics. How did you develop such technology?" Dr. Kang Su smiled. He had been waiting for this question. "Your empire is 10,000 years old," he said. "You have been the strongest power in the galaxy for all that time. You had no need to innovate, no need to change, no need to be afraid." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Humanity is 300 years old as a spacefaring species. We have always been weak. We have always been small. We have always known that the universe was full of things that could destroy us. So, we learned to run faster than anything could catch us. We learned to hide better than anything could find us. Fear made us clever. Desperation made us creative." He looked around the table at the powerful aliens. "You stopped inventing because you did not need to. We never stopped because we could not afford to." Silence followed his words. The Dominion delegation looked at each other with uncertain expressions. They had never thought of their long dominance as a weakness, but hearing it described this way, they could not argue. High Commander Orthus leaned forward. "Your ship passed through the center of my fleet. 200 warships fired everything they had. They hit nothing. How is that possible?" "Because we were not really there," Lieutenant Yunhana answered. "We move through a layer of space that your weapons cannot touch. To us, your firepower was like light passing through glass. Beautiful to watch, but completely harmless." Orthus sat back. He remembered that moment, the helplessness he had felt, the fear. Now, he understood it. "So we cannot hurt you," he said slowly. Captain Park Tae answered this one. "Because we are not conquerors. We do not want your worlds or your resources. We only want to be left alone. When your empire eventually discovers our home, we want you to approach us with respect, not hunger. And if we choose not to respect you, then you will never find us. We will remain ghosts. We will watch your ships and walk through your defenses, and you will never even know we are there. We can be the best friends the Dominion has ever had, or we can be the worst nightmare it has ever faced. The choice is yours." Another silence. The Dominion delegation whispered among themselves. Finally, another promrectly, a holographic image appeared at the head of the table. Empress Vithara herself, watching from across the galaxy. "I have listened to this conversation," she said. Her ancient eyes studied the three small humans. "You are brave creatures. Foolish, perhaps, but brave. You walked into the heart of my empire with nothing but your courage and your strange technology." "We had to," Captain Park Tae replied. "We could not let you discover us on your terms. We had to make sure the first meeting happened on equal ground." "Equal?" Empress Vithara made a sound that might have been a laugh. 300 years against 10,000. 3 ships against millions. You call that equal? Equality is not about numbers. It is about capability. You cannot catch us. You cannot hurt us. You cannot find our home. That makes us equal enough. The Empress was quiet for a long moment. Then, she did something that shocked everyone in the room. She nodded. "I offer you partnership," she said. "Not as subjects of the Dominion, but as independent allies. Trade, communication, mutual defense. You would be the first species to receive such an offer." Captain Park Tae bowed his head slightly. "We are honored by your offer, Empress. But humanity must remain independent. We are not ready to join any alliance. Perhaps in time that will change. For now, we ask only for peace." "Peace," the Empress repeated. "A small request." "Very well. You shall have your peace. But I expect we will meet again. Captain Park Tae, of humanity. I expect we will." The hologram faded. The meeting was over. As the humans returned to their shuttle, High Commander Orthus walked beside Captain Park Tae. "I must admit something," the alien said quietly. "When I first learned of your ship, I wanted to destroy it. I wanted to prove that the Dominion was still supreme. Now I am not sure what I feel." "You feel what every being feels when they meet something new," Captain Park Tae replied. "Uncertainty, fear, curiosity. These are good feelings. They mean you are still capable of growth." Orthus stopped walking. "As long as we are left in peace, yes. We have no desire for war. We only wanted to be seen, to be known, to be respected. You have achieved that." Captain Park Tae smiled. "Then, our mission is complete." He boarded his shuttle and flew back to the Wanderer. Within minutes, the 3 human ships turned and flew away, slipping between dimensions, vanishing into the darkness. High Commander Orthus watched them go. He thought about the small, soft creatures he had just met. They should have been prey. By every law of nature, they should have been conquered long ago, but they had refused to be prey. They had refused to be conquered. They had walked into the den of predators and walked out as equals. He wondered what other surprises these humans had waiting for the galaxy. On the Wanderer, the crew was quiet as they flew toward home. The mission was over. They had done what they came to do. Humanity was no longer unknown. They were no longer invisible. The galaxy would remember them. Lieutenant Yoon Hana set the course for Earth. "We did it," she said softly. "We actually did it." Dr. Kang Soo was already thinking about improvements to the drive. Sergeant Baek Jin was running system checks. Specialist No-Un was preparing the report for Earth Command. Captain Park Tae looked at his small crew. His family of 5 who had challenged an empire. "We came to the galaxy as ghosts," he said. "No ID. No signal. No origin. We arrived as a mystery. But they will remember the name now. They will remember humanity." He looked at the stars stretching out before them. Somewhere ahead was Earth, blue and green and full of life. Somewhere ahead were 8 billion humans who would wake up tomorrow in a safer galaxy. They did not know how close they had come to being discovered by predators. They did not know about the 5 brave people who had spent months flying through enemy space, risking everything to change the way the galaxy would see their species. That was okay. They did not need to know. What mattered was that when humanity finally stepped onto the galactic stage, they would step forward with their heads held high. Not as victims, not as prey, not as subjects, as equals. The wanderer flew on through the darkness, carrying the hopes of a species, heading home at last. And behind them, an empire watched the stars and wondered what other impossible things these strange, small, fearless humans might do next.